So, welcome back to Severna. This is the most recent iteration of the island. It's more similar to what I had originally planned in the first video, where I had the graphic issues, and then I went and built another republic. But I've got to 140,000 population on that, and again, I've realised things I could have done better. So I'm starting about the 20,000th version of Severna. With this map, I've put a bit more visual history into it, whereas the other maps, there wasn't really any, sort of visual history there. So history of Severna. So it's the highest point of the Dogger Bank, which is a large area in the North Sea that is very shallow. It's where the UK builds a lot of windmills now, because the sea is very shallow there. But in the past, this was a landmass, open plain, lowlands in between Great Britain and continental Europe. But then at the end of the last ice age, the ice melted, the sea levels rose, and this patch of land was flooded. So what Severna is a portion of that remained above sea level, surrounded by a lot of reefs, as it's so shallow, and the island itself is volcanic. It's an ancient volcano that isn't necessarily part of Dogger Bank. It was just there. It's almost like poking through the seabed. It's an ancient volcano that has existed for many millions of years. It's thought to still be active, although it's been dormant for, as far as we know, for many centuries. The human history of the island, the first sort of recorded history on the island was when the Cathedral of Saint Severna was founded. In the 16th century, the island was incorporated into the United Kingdom, and the island was uninhabited as far as we can tell at this time, but we do know that the island would have obviously been the last refuge of any ancient humans living in the area. As the Dogger Bank flooded, obviously they would have just got closer and closer. So there's a lot of ancient sites on the island, the most prominent of which is the stone circle of Severna, which Severnan geologists and archaeologists are still trying to establish whether this is a natural formation or whether it was constructed, as the stones appear to either be natural or buried incredibly deep within the ground. So the jury is still out on this, and there are, as the island is a volcanic island, there are lots of lava tubes and chambers all across the island, forming a huge warren, and we've only just begun really exploring these areas, as the island has remained pretty obscure for most of history. Legend has it that the residents of Saint Severna disappeared in a 3-day storm, where the island was completely cut off from the mainland for several days. And when people arrived back on the island, when the traders arrived, everyone was gone. this, this could just be an old wives' tale, but usually there's some kind of truth within it, or maybe that the inhabitants of the island simply evacuated from the storm, but they didn't return anyway. The island then remained pretty much abandoned or uninhabited, should we say, until it became a important refueling base during the Second World War for the British, until it was taken over by, it was all the refueling infrastructure was bombed by the Luftwaffe, and the island was summarily abandoned. Then in the 1960s, BP and the British government began developing the island. One thing led to another. There was a workers' dispute between, which started as just relocation costs for the staff, and what they would be getting for moving to the uninhabited island, which quickly led to a complete workers' revolt on the island, and subsequently declared independence from the United Kingdom. And this, a rare occasion in British history, but the British shown restraint and didn't send in the RAF or the Navy. So the island remains independent, asterisk. It is not allowed any kind of military at all. It's allowed a merchant navy, but not a defensive and certainly not offensive navy. So that's a brief outline of the island themselves. Subsequently, many different people will move to the island, not just the BP workers, as they have sent out the message that if you come to Severna and you can work, you will be welcome here. So, because the way that the state of Severna will maintain its independence will be to build its population and obviously make more of itself. So yeah, let's get into that. Hello everybody and welcome back to Severna. So it's been a while since I've released an update. The last build that I made initially, they had a graphics issue. There was something had gone wrong with the terrain. It was the specific map that I was using, and then I built the Severna up to, which is in the Severna 1979 to like 1980, the update video. But I've backed myself into a corner with that one because I've done what I always do, and is I build everything really close, everything sort of quite compact and in close together, which then leads to issues with water supply and pressure. And systems that get too complicated to manage. And also, I don't think that I was as efficient as I could be with the supply chain. I think I did have too many shops, too many warehouses, which relied on too many trains. So I've taken it back now to more the original plan that I had with the original map that I had the graphics issue with, which is actually in one of the more viewed videos on the channel. So I figure I'll kind of do more or less what I'd planned to do with that Republic. So the maps is very similar. So we've got the old church. So if you have watched that video, this is a spiritual successor to that. The layout is more or less exactly the same, and what I'm going to try and control myself for doing is this. So this town here, Sintaf, is basically a big square of 400 squared. I get 400 on each side meters. So this will be as big as one town will be. So I could build another one right here, but it will be independent, so that when I have problems, they're a lot easier to isolate and easier to put right. Basically, what a real network would have. I got up to, on my previous map, I've got up to 140,000 people, but I had a large unemployed population, and also I was having, like I said, numerous issues with the water supply, as I put too many people in a too small area, and the kind of water network that I needed to supply that was just become slightly unrealistic. So let's go again. So this is the design I've gone with. So same as in my other maps. So we've got this is one town, but then I'm going to split that up into two halves. So you've got this half and you've got this half, and then we've got this strip in the middle, which will be for larger public buildings, so police station, hospitals, universities, whatever that district needs at that time. But the fundamental base will be for citizen supplies. So we've got this main storehouse in the middle, which will be supplied via train, and then that supplies 4 shops in radius around it, and then those shops will then are on the very outskirts of the grid here. That's where the buildings will be, which will then be able to link with them being on the outside of the districts. I can then build the factories next to it, and the workers will be able to get there if it's a factory that doesn't obviously cause too much pollution. This area is going to be a bit, but it's early days, and I will hope to maybe demolish these blocks of flats eventually and move the people elsewhere. We'll see how bad the pollution is. I mean, it's going to be pretty bad there. They are quite close to the refinery, but yeah, sorry, a bit of an oversight. Sorry, guys. So we've got 3.4 million of our initial start left. I imagine I've already introduced these, but I will just go over it again. So we've got the oil field here, which is powered by wind. So it doesn't rely on any workers to keep that going. And then that will constantly export oil. But only after the rest of the system is full of oil. So oil's going to come down here. It's underground pumping station. So there's primary tank there, which is empty pretty much because these are filling it. Well, actually, yeah. I have just built a few more pumps just to try and increase that. But anyway, it's fine because all these are full. So you've got first refinery, power plant. Well, no, it will go power plant, and the heating plant have got their own tank, which is this one. So this links to both the power plant and the heating plant. So they're upstream of the refinery. The refinery will only get the fuel as long as this is full. The oil rather to turn into fuel, and then this. Then the refinery will make the bitumen and the fuel. So that's in these tanks here. They'll fill up a local supply as well, and then they will be exported once they're full. Then from there, the distribution office will pick those up and spread that out. But as my main kind of game plan to try and keep performance playable whilst having a large population, I want to minimize the amount of vehicles on the road. So that's this whole, the trains doing all the supply runs and things, to stop having, hundreds of covered holes. I need to try and watch how many waste trucks I use. So in other maps, what I've done with these, so these technical service office offices, I would have one for cooling, one for road clearing, one for and then a separate one for rubbish and waste collection. But I'm going to blend them together, so that's obviously reducing the amount of vehicles that I can have in that, because I don't think I need as many as I like plopping down. And with trying to keep everything to these districts that will be more or less independent of each other, hopefully I will be able to minimize vehicles right the way down, especially if I try and have smaller, instead of having one large central food factory and then distributing that out to the country, maybe setting up smaller local ones. Because what I'm going to do, I think, with food, at least to start with, is on my previous island I had a grain dock, and then it connected via train to where the food was produced, whereas here I'm just going to build the factory right on the coast and just have the grain coming straight to it. So that's cutting out half the trains to start with. Don't know why I didn't do that before. Well, I just don't think I started near the coast. Well, I'm always on an island, so it wasn't very far away, but I just didn't do that. Whereas this one, I'm going to do that, and I don't know whether, we're playing it now, so I don't know whether I want to keep, so clothes, food, meat are all produced together, or spread them out. I think it'd be better to do them together, like I did before with a big storage yard. It's just I want to take out that initial delivery of the grain to the factory. So we haven't got any citizens yet. So I just want to make sure I've got everything ready before we introduce them. But I'm definitely going to have to start soon. But there's always that apprehension, isn't there? So yeah, I think what I'm going to do is let me just plan this one out, actually. Oh, yes. Always get yourself, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of groundwork, always get yourself a construction office set up somewhere relatively central. I can always move it. So we'll put this here, 'cause it's pretty central to the map. And get some excavators and some bulldozers in there, because then every time you modify the ground, you're not spending a lot of money. Initial outlay obviously on your vehicles, but I think it's better. It pays for itself in the long run. So we need some excavators. Speed 38. It's not one that's can dry. We got any in? Oh, we have. Ooh, yeah. So oh god, that is quite a lot more expensive. But actually, yeah, they're excavators and bulldozers. So yeah, we'll just have a load of them. So then put yourself in pay for yourself. See how long it takes to. Not bad, quite quick to move the crust out. The land out. It starts to obviously tail off a little bit, but the seas around Severna are pretty shallow anyway. So these people will mainly be employed in the heating plant, the water treatment plant, both sides of the system, and their refinery. Right. Just want to plan this out. I'm not going to build it. I just want to plan it out. So flatten all the ground. So there's a railway line here. So I think, yeah, if I... Right. So the dock. So let's just put... I've got to get an anchor somewhere. Pardon the pun. So we'll just put that there. Or that might cause, sometimes you can have issues with that. So I'm just going to time lapse the next bit here. So this is just the planning out of the factory, the food factory, the clothing factory, and the meat factory. So I need everything to all connect together and all be. So yeah, we'll just plan this out, and in the next episode, we'll get the citizens moved in. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like and a subscribe if you did, and hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.